So when I was thinking about coming here, and the conversation that we'll have today is about engagement, and I was looking at some of Deck's sales presentations from 2006, and all of the conversation today, thank you, today that is about engagement, which is some of what we'll talk about. And I was going to bring the deck, but I didn't. But I have slides from like 2006, and it says branding, advertising, and it has a huge slash through it, because what we were doing even then was participating and engaging. So I don't think a lot of these concepts are new, because we've been talking about them now for over 7 years. But I do think the way that we as marketers and people who are working so hard to build brands using video as a medium, I think we are beginning to understand more and more about how we can actually activate across these platforms. But the concepts don't feel that new. I was also looking at the very first ad units that we were selling in 2006, and we had to change the name of this unit because nobody could say it. The first word is participatory. Okay, so imagine saying that on sales calls and conferences. So participatory video ads, it was a PVA, and it was our homepage unit, which was not the big masthead we have now, but it was a little unit in the upper right. And so even then, even in 2006, we were talking about engagement because that was our PVA, our participatory video ad. So I think when we use the word today, it feels a little cliched, and part of what we're going to try and do is bring back a little meaning to our sense of engagement. You guys are going to have to forgive me because I am going to cough and I'm going to cover my microphone when I do that. So the history of branding. If we think about what branding is, we know that branding is primarily about telling stories. And if we look at how this has come kind of through the ages, the early Egyptians, how they branded, quite literally, they used hot, fire brands to signify ownership on, they literally branded things. So that was branding, what branding was way, way, way back. In the industrial age, when we had the opportunity to mass produce products, it gave us the opportunity for, mass brands, essentially like Campbell's. In the industrial age, gave us an opportunity for mass brands. And then with the broadcast age, we then had the opportunity for essentially mass dissemination of those brands as we could communicate. And then, of course, that brings us to the information age. And where we think we are today is what we would call the participation age. Okay? So when we at YouTube, one of the things that Mark had asked me to do in this talk was talk to you a little bit about how we think at YouTube and how we are approaching this marketscape and this landscape. So what you're getting is our perspective and point of view on where we are and where we're headed. So we believe we've gone from industrial broadcast information that is now truly this participation age. But again, there's humor in that, given that's where we were 6 years ago with a participatory video ad. So what is the participation age? And as brands, how do we start to figure out really how to take advantage and leverage the vehicles that we have? So one of the ways that we frame this, as marketers, we all need frameworks, right? We need ways to organize our thinking, and we love models that have, generation, right, C, Gen Y, Gen X, right, Gen C. So what is Gen C? And when you hear me talk about this, try not to think about Gen C as a demographic. Think about Generation C as a psychographic. There are people who are 15 years old and there are people who are 65 who psychographically represent what it is to be part of this Generation C culture. So literally, what is it? When we think about Gen C, these are people who live their lives with curation, creation, connection, and community. And I think the only two that I really need to underscore to help people understand are curation. What is that? Those are the people who spend hours and hours. It's what happens on Pinterest. It's what happens on YouTube with playlists. It's people who spend enormous amounts of time aggregating, sourcing, seeking content, and then helping other people discover it. Right? It is, we used to talk about this kind of as architected participation. Like there are all these environments on the web right now where the framework exists and then people come in and they curate and they build it. Creation is also pretty obvious. It's just people who are creative and they are constantly for almost nothing. We all have HD cameras on our smartphones today. You can be creating essentially video. So curation, creation, connection. I see you with your Google Glass right there, front row. Curation, creation, connection, and community, right? So I'm going to play you a short video of what this looks like, and this is going to give you a sense of how fundamentally, YouTube is this glorious platform, but it is a media platform, right, for sharing and discovering video. This is how we think about and how we frame our audience. So if you all were a big brand marketer or an ad agency, this is likely the kind of sizzle video that you would see as our team was out and about framing. What does our audience look like? It's Gen C, but we would then say, don't think of that as a demo. Think of that as a psychographic profile.
We're the instant gratification generation, and YouTube is that perfect source for that.
I got to know what's going on every single day.
If you think about movies, right? In the beginning, they were just, people got everything from the movie theater. There'd be a newsreel and a cartoon before the picture. That's what YouTube presents, but with this dynamic aspect of choice.
I don't care if it's shot with a professional camera. I want the information I'm watching to be engaging.
After I've shared a video, I like to see if people watched it or see what they thought about it.
I love my guy friends, but I don't connect with them. And after I watch College Humor for like about an hour, I feel like I'm ready to be somebody's bro.
Not only do I have a chance to look at the content, but then I can tell them what I thought of it. And that interaction maybe is a big component for me.
YouTube's more community-based than television. You have conversations and comments.
It's more relatable because they don't have like a whole chain of command to probably like go through to like put out this content.
Oh, should I not share her video? So that's like, oh, she posted it. And I noticed 148,000 people shared that video. So I didn't feel bad sharing it as well.
I'm creating to share with people.
People have always been creative, but the means to get that message out there is more accessible.
It's a good way to learn about languages too. Like currently I'm trying to learn French, so I've been going on YouTube. My French is very bad. I'm still learning. Je ne parle français, which means I'm not good at French.
YouTube, I feel, is a book full of possibilities that never ends. You can find anything you want on YouTube.
Who our audience is, I think I would love to talk to Bonfire Labs about your video versus that video. I think you might have one-upped us. So that was very, very good this morning. So that gives you a sense of Gen C and the way we think about the audience that is engaging with and participating with YouTube. Now, some still think, okay, but they're probably young and they're probably not that influential. The reality is that this demographic influences over $500 billion in spending in the US alone. And if you think about how this plays out over time and you understand that Gen C really does matter, so influence of over 500 billion, it's kind of, when you think about tapping into this audience, you're essentially future-proofing your business because in 7 years, Gen C is going to make up almost 75% of the workforce. Okay, so think about that, 7 years. I started at YouTube 7 years ago. Like, time flies, right? We all write business plans that are for a couple years out, but really, in 7 years, almost 75% of the workforce will be Gen C. 40% of the overall population will be Gen C. Okay, so even if you don't think about this audience, the curators, the creators, the connected, the community, even if today as marketers you don't think of them as your target audience, think about what the future is going to look like as these people get into the workforce, begin earning real incomes, and continue to matter. When we think about how Gen C changes the way we work, again, as marketers, how do we navigate this? How do we think about it? And okay, it's only 8:30 in the morning, and this is our second marketing funnel, okay? So when I saw Mark's this morning, Mark's marketing funnel, I drew it. It looked just like mine. Mark's had, he called it attention. It was awareness at the top, and it had advocacy at the bottom. So his awareness would be my audience at 100%. His advocacy would be my, 5% down at the bottom. So here's the way we think, again, at YouTube, that we are all used to starting wide. The reason that we have started wide and been trained as marketers to start wide is because 2 decades ago for me, when I started working in marketing, there were no signals. You started wide because reach and frequency was what you could measure, right? So of course you start wide because it's broad and it's awareness and it's reach and frequency, and that's like, so of course you start wide. But reality is there are super strong signals today that are down at the, what Mark called, the advocacy level. So this is the way the marketing funnel has worked, right? But in the last 15 years, and some of us feel like this whole thing started when Netscape went public, right? So that was sometime mid-90s, right? Does anyone know that exact date? That's trivia. There you go, Greg Jarbo knows. So 1994, some of us believe. I think it all started when a guy came to interview with me in shorts and a t-shirt, and I didn't hire him, and he ended up being like employee number 12 at Yahoo or something, you know, on the sales team. So I wasn't going to hire a guy in shorts and a t-shirt. So, but there are companies today, you think about it, super, super strong, real-time current signals. And how does that make you rethink the way that you think of your marketing funnel, right? So we still are trying fairly desperately. You know, we say video is mandatory. What we all hear back is, well, we still have to have a way to understand how to convert your online impression to a GRP. We're still trying to match it to the metrics of reach and frequency. And the IAB and the Media Ratings Council, I mean, there's so much work that's being done around this. And to some extent, you got to ask yourself, is that really what we should be trying to do? Is like continue to think about the marketing funnel as, you know, up here to down here. Like, does it really still go upper funnel to lower funnel? Or do you flip it? Okay, because here's what's happens when you flip it. You start with, excuse me, the people who are super engaged, who are the advocates, and you start with the people who are able to give you really, really strong signals about their passion and their engagement and their participation in your brand. So it's another way to think about it, is just flip the funnel on its head, start there, which is what you can do with digital media. And then from there, you go the other way, and you end up, right, with the broad audience, but you end up, it's like that whole brand siren thing, you end up building it from the inside out in a way that is likely much, much more meaningful. There is we can look at a lot of brands who have done this, who have come at it from a fairly untraditional way and kind of turned the engagement period around. These are some of the brands that, as I've watched how they've kind of ignited and marketed themselves, that they've taken different approaches, right? There is, I'm going to get to a great stat in just a second. So how do you actually put this into practice? Okay, so this is what we think about. Okay, so you flip the funnel. How are we supposed to think about then engaging with what is potentially Gen C and getting to the people who are likely to be more in the advocacy participation at the top, and then building it down? So we essentially think about it in these 4 buckets, right? So again, we're marketers. We need frameworks. So what are the buckets? 1, there's audience. There's the concept, and we'll have examples of each of these. But there's the concept of don't push, right? Don't push it out. Let the audience find you. And my best example of this really is what happens on the day after the Super Bowl. Tens of millions of people come into Google, they come into YouTube, they come into Bing, they come into search engines, and they search best Super Bowl commercial, funniest Super Bowl spot. I think that is the best example of what happens when people are actually searching for your commercial, right? So the first one is let your audience find you, okay? That's the first one. The second one is this sense of expression, and it's this very simple statement. Create content, not commercials. Think of your commercial as content. We've been saying it for 5 or 6 years now. We're probably getting closer. It's not about 15s and 30s. I haven't seen this yet, but I challenge brand marketers, weekly. Do you guys remember the Super Bowl spots from a couple years ago that were the Miller Lite 1-second spots? Remember those? And they were kind of a joke. They were the delivery guy, and it was 1 second, and he'd just like pop up and say, "Hi, life." Right? Okay. That's probably too short, but what we haven't seen yet is a marketer actually begin to understand that, yeah, you can go the 2.5 minutes, which a lot of marketers do with, they're not infomercials, they're shorts, they're video made for the web, they're sometimes beautiful, arresting short films. You can also go the other way. What if there were a marketer that were to create commercial that was content that was 3-second bumpers that preceded. So if you're Coke and it's, unlock happiness, why wouldn't you create 3-second bumpers that were just like oozing with this sense of unlock happiness that preceded, right, hundreds of millions of videos that somehow felt happy? It sounds so simple. Nobody's done it yet. I mean, that's a new ad format. It's just like, think about it as bumpers. Think about what happened with MTV. So I grew up very much in the MTV generation, and when I heard that, that little man on the moon thing, you knew there was a music video coming. What do we know? Like, You've Got Mail. Like, we know that commercial, that little bing at the end of, the Intel badoop boop. They're called, what are they called? Their ear. They're like those little, they're not like emotic, but they're like this little, they're coming, right? They're signals. And there's no reason that we in this industry couldn't start to pioneer with new units that were other forms of expression. Okay, so the first one is let them find you. The second one is just this simple statement of commercial as content. There's dozens of different ways to articulate and define that, but that's what we mean by that. The third one is participation. So you cannot control the conversation. We all know that, but you can steer it, right? So give the audience, give your loyalists and your fans and your advocates, give them avenues to come in and do something with it. So I think about Gangnam Style and Wonderful Pistachios. So Wonderful Pistachios did the spoof of the Gangnam Style video for their Super Bowl spot. And what does that do? That invites other parodies and other responses and other spots. So again, that's just one simple example of give them a way to participate. You cannot control it, but you can absolutely steer it. And then the last element of this is just the signals. And I'll show you, there'll be a slide at the end that has the actual, like, here's what we think you should be paying attention to. And it is about this engagement metric. It's not about reach and frequency anymore. Okay, so this is kind of how a brand begins to make sense and really take advantage of the flipping of that funnel. So, audience, let them find you. Right? This is the stat that I was excited about. So reality is, this is a study that was from Catalina Partners, and they studied 10 CPG companies, and what they discovered was that 53% of the people who actually bought the products in the target market, right? So you're Unilever and you're selling Q-tips and you're dead certain that it is the 18 to 25-year-old female who's using them for, beauty and eyeliner. You're dead certain that that's your target, that's what all your market research shows you. And then lo and behold, over half of the people who actually bought them weren't even in your target demo. Okay, so again, think about that. And as a brand, the importance of letting an audience find you, because you're not always looking for the right people. All right? So we talked a little bit about this with the Super Bowl ads. But if you think about Google search, right, this is what the company's done. I don't need to belabor this one. Everyone gets it. Like, you type for something, you look for it, you find it, and you're off and running. That's essentially what search is. It's letting people choose. The ad format that we launched about 3 years ago, it had been in market. So Tremor Media had a user choice ad that had been in market for, I think, 2 years when we launched ours. The Viviki people launched this thing called The Pool, where they did just really in-depth research that showed that when people choose, they remember. And so there's this whole concept of user choice, that if you're presented with the opportunity to select an ad and watch an ad, that all the data and research shows that you remember, right? So when we launched our TrueView ad unit, it's essentially, I think, do most people in the room know what that is? Yes? Should I not even say it? No? Okay. So TrueView. So it's just the user chooses. So a little, if you watch a lot of YouTube, you'll see it. A little box shows up that says you can skip this ad in 5 seconds. If you skip the ad, the advertiser doesn't pay for it. If you don't skip the ad, then you end up watching the ad, right? And the algorithm, it gets better every day, but the algorithm brilliantly works to surface the right ad for the right user in the right content at the right time, right? But again, it's this notion of user choice. And we believe that that is critical, and that over time, more and more marketing and advertising will be user choice. I'll share one other just very quick anecdote. If you think about the way that we're all consuming entertainment media right now, and I'll use myself as an example, I watched seasons 1 through 4 of Mad Men streamed off of Netflix in one of those insane, like, massive consumption month period of time. I bought season 5 off of Amazon for I think $25 because the window, it wasn't available when I needed it and I just wanted to watch it. And then season 6 is now, okay? Seasons 1 through 5, I didn't see a single commercial, right? Season 6, I'm having kind of an interesting experience on Comcast Xfinity. Is anyone here from Comcast? I'm having an interesting experience because they don't seem to have the windowing figured out yet, and I missed the first 3 episodes, and I can't go back and find them. And the way that they're rolling it now, they're actually 4.5-minute commercial breaks. I'm not kidding, 4.5-minute commercial breaks. And if you try and skip out of it, you get stuck, and then it serves it up again. My point in telling you this is, like, it's not figured out yet. And if you think about that experience, it's going to be user choice, because I'm going to choose not to watch that Visine commercial with the eyeball with the pirate patch on it. I can't bear it anymore, right? So it's the same commercial that plays. It's that and a Captain Morgan's Rum's like commercial. So the point being, you will work really hard not to see the commercials. So we believe that user choice will be a really critical part of how most video ads are served. So we have this ads leaderboard at YouTube, and I think many of you probably know what this is. And we see, again, this is this notion of commercial as content. And if there are ads that are meaningful, people watch them. They get tens of millions of views and they get shared. So I'm going to show you, and a lot of people have probably seen it because we are at a video conference, but this is the spot that Pepsi created around Jeff Gordon. And as you're watching it, many of you probably have seen this before, but try something different this time. And maybe write down as you're watching it what you see. Maybe you see high production value, maybe you see a famous race car driver. Like, write down the elements of what you see, because what's meaningful about doing that is afterwards you can kind of ask yourself what would be in scope or out of scope for your company, for you in the role that you're in. And that's kind of the way we should be thinking about video examples when we watch them. So let's see. This is long, but we're going to watch it. I'm going to try and watch it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Nice and easy. Just head on out and whenever you're ready.
Just take us back. Oh, no. Do you think you are?
What do you mean?
I'm calling the cops.
No, you don't understand. It's not what you think. It's not what you think. No, it's just a prank. We're just having fun. Look, this is a camera. Here's a camera. There's cameras. Look, it was all just fun. Look, I'm Jeff Gordon.
London. I love the energy of this city and the sense that anything is possible. But sometimes, with the pace of city life, it's hard to appreciate the magic that's all around us.
Okay, so there's sped up versions of 2 of the spots. If you want to watch the whole thing, you can find them. Find them online. But again, as you watch that, yes, it's great. It's brilliant creative. It's great content. And I do know that there's irony in saying commercial is content, because it's not like every marketer in this room would not like to have a brilliant piece of content that can serve as their creative. It's not that easy. But I'd call the Bind Fire Labs guys, for that one. So, so commercial is content. think about what you saw in those two examples from Pepsi. Think about the elements you saw, and then just think a little bit about what would be in scope and out of scope for you, for your brand, for your role, for what you're thinking about. So, expression, right? Craft content, not commercials. I don't need to belabor that one. This is, I think, a quote that captures it all. It's no longer a level playing field. Television commercials are being beaten to Cannes Grand Prix by films with the complete freedom afforded by the internet, right? So it also, you know, it opens it up because it's not a 15 or a 30, it's whatever it needs to be, right, to create it and to communicate the message. So just so much creative freedom that's in that. So there's a sophistication where a lot of brands come to us and say, okay, I don't have a content strategy. What should I do with my content strategy? And this is quite literally the grid that we give them. We say that there's a spectrum. There's just entry, there's just low, and then there's when you get more sophisticated and you can get into it. And, you know, literally, for the curation, like the first thing you have to do is you build a channel, right? That's the first thing you have to do. The second thing you have to do is you have to go out and find the video, and if you curate, and you have to figure out what's on your channel. So you guys can all read, but you can see we go from low to high in terms of sophistication for the curation and the creation, and we work with a lot of brand marketers on just kind of how to get started. We also just opened a space in Los Angeles called the YouTube LA space, believe it or not. It's a very literal name. And we opened a space where we actually invite brands to come and spend time with creators to continue to explore and innovate in this area. So it's meant to be very much by the people, for the people, and a place where brands and content creators can collaborate and create great stuff for the web. So, okay, so this is the way that we bring marketers through it. I think we'll look at a few examples of curation and a few examples of participation. So this is the Weight Watchers project. These are all consumer uploads, and it's really inspired by people. Like when people lose weight, they are so excited to tell their story, and that's what you're gonna see in some of these examples. So this is, the first one is a woman who is Anna Gasteyer. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce her name. I don't know who she is. My 15-year-old daughter said, oh yeah, she's on this show called Subterfuge or Suburgatory or something. I don't watch it. But she tells her story. We'll watch this.
I've lived 25 years being a heavy person. The caller just looked at me and said, "You're fat. This is never going to change."
I felt very unhappy. I felt like I really couldn't be the Katie that was inside.
They showed me the photos later, and I thought, oh my God, who's the fat guy with my kid?
I reached out to Weight Watchers, and it was really the best decision I've ever made. I love it because it let me live my life.
I lost a whole person.
I lost 70 pounds, 148 pounds. I lost 129 pounds on Weight Watchers.
I did it, and you can too.
Right, so a place for people to share their stories. So this is a technique, it's been around for 6 years. We have a very sophisticated upload system for people to come in and share, if it's videos or stories or comments. So that's, you know, part of, on the scale of sophistication, kind of where you can go with this. Kmart, we saw a little blip of the Ship My Pants. If you look at the graph here, I mean, you can see the search queries after that campaign launched. It's pretty extraordinary. I was surprised to see this from Kmart. I don't know if other people were. You have to say it very carefully, Ship My Pants. But this is the program, and for people who haven't seen it, we will play it.
Ship my pants? Right here? Ship my pants, you're kidding. You can ship your pants right here. You hear that? I can ship my pants for free.
Wow, I just may ship my pants.
Yeah, ship your pants. Billy, you can ship your pants too.
I can't wait to ship my pants, Dad.
I just shipped my pants, and it's very convenient.
Very convenient.
I just shipped my drawers.
I just shipped my nightie.
I just shipped my bed.
If you can't find what you're looking for in store, we'll find it at Kmart.com right now and ship it to you for free.
Okay, so it's great. I mean, it's commercial as content, truly. So it did great. And there are, if you look on YouTube, you'll see on the official Kmart, there's about 19 million views. You'll see another one that is actually Kmart's TV ads uploaded, and that's got another 6 million views. And then you will see hundreds and hundreds of like advocates for the brand who are re-uploading it, and there are derivative copies of it flying all over. So really, really great creative, right? So that was and it made it to our ad leaderboard. Lots of positive press, and then they followed this up with a video we're not going to watch, but you can watch it on your own, which was their big gas saving videos. But you know, again, it's hard. It's like great creative, which gives them a shot. But you know, who would have thought that Kmart would launch a commercial about shipping my pants, right? So participation. So this is the steering the conversation. You know, again, you can't control it. So how much brand content? The content that exists out on the web about a brand, how much of that do you think is actually generated by the company itself or is generated by others outside? So Greg will talk because he's, you know. What do you think, Greg? Okay, Greg Jarbo says 90% is outside, not generated by the company itself. So Greg is not correct, it's 25%. Okay, but still, that's a quarter of the company's of a content. So we, you know, I'm saying things we know, but you can't control it, but you can steer it. So how do you think about kickstarting? How do you think about giving people elements, starters, that they can begin to use? Again, think about this phenomena that happens on YouTube, like the Harlem Shake, and then all the Harlem Shake videos that come back, and then Pepsi creates one, and then, right? Think about ways to leverage and really ignite all of the energy and all of the opportunity that already exists on these platforms, right? So 25% of the world's top brands, the content about those brands is actually linked to content that's created by people that don't work for the brand. Right? So this is a Jeff Bezos quote, "Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room." I found attribution on this one back to 2008. Right? So it's a great, great quote. And I know we have somebody from GoPro in the room, so you should feel, where's GoPro? Somewhere? Maybe, maybe not. If there's anyone shy from GoPro in the room today, right, it's the guy with the camera on his head or on his chest. This is a company that should feel unbelievably proud of the way that they have come out their marketing. And we're going to play, it's a short video that gives you a sense of what they've been doing.
Nick, the CEO, gave me a call and said, "I want you to come up and start this whole media company." And I said, "I'll think about it." Yes. The first order of business was to shoot as much footage as we could and put it online. Our first video hit and it just exploded. Oh my God, 50,000 people just saw this. Now we get 50,000 in a day. There were a couple things that really made that fire catch. One of them was the tags. Somehow, you know, I don't know, people were tagging GoPro. That is what built that momentum. YouTube allowed a real relationship, I think, between our customers and us. All our audience gets to tell us exactly what they like and don't like about it. And that's something we value.
Our biggest moment of enlightenment was realizing that customers were marketing the brand for us.
As our views increased globally, so have our sales at GoPro.com. It's pretty immediate, actually. I can't imagine how we would be able to expand globally as quickly as we have without the help of a platform like YouTube.
It's a surreal story. To go from a little disposable 35 Kodak that's a rubber banded to your wrist to 100 million views on the YouTube channel. Something that made all of us go like, wow. It's a dream. Like, it's unreal.
Incredibly, incredibly powerful. It's amazing to see that. And if you heard some of the comments there, he called himself a media company. where do they make their money? They sell, they sell cameras that people strap to their heads and their chests when they ski and when they go skydiving and diving, etc. Right? Is that a media company? But that's what he called them. And then what the CEO said, that we let our customers essentially talk about our brand for us. So really powerful. Okay, we're getting close to wrapping. One thing you do have to care about is measurement, right? So we all know that there's an enormous amount of work being done in digital videos, so that comment at the beginning about digital video should be mandatory, so that there's no problem with that, so that there's the right measurement and the right metrics. This is, and I guess maybe if people want to take pictures of this, this is fine. This is what we believe. So when you're thinking about your audience, expression, participation, we've listed kind of what you should be thinking about and measuring. It is not as simple as a conversion of an online impression to a GRP. There's an awful lot of stuff that you have to pay attention to. Right? It's all the social sentiment stuff. I'm going to fly through this so we can kind of get, I think this is another example of a company that really put it all together. I'm going to show the Dove Sketches. For some people who don't know, Dove Sketches is the third brilliant piece of creative. The first was Evolution of Beauty, which was parodied until the cows came home, right? The second was Onslaught, which was that little girl with the red hair and kind of the images of what beauty should look like. And this is the third, and it's, again, just brilliant creative, right? So we're going to watch the case study.
Dove has this mission of turning beauty into a source of confidence and not anxiety for a long time. The brand has always been about real women. What was really like a tipping point was around 2004 with Campaign for Real Beauty. And the latest part of this campaign is Real Beauty Sketches. Only 4% of the women in the planet think that they are beautiful. And it was really just an idea to bring an FBI-trained sketch artist and show the contrast between how women see themselves and how others see.
She looks closed off and fatter, sadder too. The second one looks more open, friendly, and happy.
Hearing people describe themselves, maybe there's something about a feature that they don't really like about themselves. And I can sense that, they're kind of treading lightly on that.
We brought the best brains that we could reach from Google, from YouTube specifically, to have a conversation about how to find what were the best ways for more people to engage with the content. Conversations on YouTube to keep feeding the interest on the video. There are lots of people who come to me to say how many different times they have watched the video already. We are getting so much traction on YouTube. I mean, there are some incredibly large numbers. The intent was to create brand love and translate that brand love in a longer-term relationship between the audience and the brand. We need to take risks and try to create even more content that will be meaningful to people.
So I will tell you that they funded the acceleration of video views, meaning they put some heft behind TrueView to get that thing moving. There's another video, which was a Turkish Airlines video that launched. It was a Kobe versus Messe video. They're on the Turkish airline. It hit about 105 million views. Very quickly it accelerated. That is a company also that people say, I want a viral video. How do I get it to go? Buy TrueView. And you know what? If nobody watches the ad, you're not paying for anything. So that's, it kind of works. So the Dove example, I often think about, we all think about Nike, right? One of the greatest brand marketers on the planet. And if you look at Nike's spending year over the last 5 or 6 years, their advertising as tracked by TNS is going like this. Because they're not advertising. They're doing video, they are sponsoring the women's marathon, they have their sports sponsorships, they're not advertising. And there's a quote that I remember, this is 5 or 6 years ago, Trevor Edwards, who runs marketing for them, said, I'm not in the business of keeping media companies alive. I'm in the business of connecting with my consumers. So, their advertising spend will probably keep going like this. Their marketing investments will continue to go like this because, again, it's about participating and engaging. It's not about branding and advertising. Okay, so I'm going to flip through these. They are all on this slide, okay? And I think we'll probably end up leaving a copy of this presentation. But it's like when you think about what you might do differently tomorrow, when you think about your audience, the content, the creative, the expression, how people participate, the opportunities you give them, and then also the signals that you are watching in this new age. You know, we have thoughts and suggestions about what you can do that is different, right? There's a lot more that can be shared on a website called the Engagement Project. So if we bring it right back to the beginning of this presentation, we hope to bring a little meaning back to that word engagement. It's about engagement, it's about participation, and I love that statement this morning that video should be mandatory. So thank you. I hope I told you something you didn't know, and thank you so much.